For 2 years, I thought I had something real with Marissa. We built a life together, moving in 6 months ago and splitting everything down the middle. But gradually, I began to feel like I was dating 5 people instead of 1. Her tight-knit friend group, Chloe, Adrian, Tasha, and Finn, a unit she called the Squad, was a constant, overwhelming presence. Their group chat buzzed 24/7. They wore matching Halloween costumes and did everything together. What I initially saw as a sweet display of friendship had morphed into a suffocating dynamic where I was merely a background character, the guy who paid half the rent. The final straw came on a quiet evening. Our 2-year anniversary was approaching, and I had planned a thoughtful evening, reservations at the restaurant where we had our first date, tickets to see a band she adored. I found her on the couch, scrolling through her friends' Instagram stories. "Hey, I've got something special planned for our anniversary next Saturday," I said. She looked up from her phone, her face falling as if I'd delivered terrible news. "Oh, babe," she said slowly, setting her phone down. "That's the same night as Tasha's birthday pregame. You know I can't miss that." My stomach dropped, but I tried to stay calm. Could they reschedule for Friday or Sunday? She was already shaking her head. "No, you don't understand. Tasha planned it for Saturday because it's the only night everyone can make it. Adrian has a work conference Sunday. Chloe is stressed with her new job and needs this, and Finn just broke up with his girlfriend. We all really need this night, Ethan." As she spoke, she grew more animated, defending her friend's needs with a passion I rarely saw directed at us. "It's our anniversary," I said, my voice sounding small. "This only happens once a year. You can see your friends any other time." Her demeanor shifted instantly. She crossed her arms and gave me a look of pure exasperation. "Love can wait, but friendship can't. They were here before you, and they'll be here after." The words hit me like a physical blow. "They'll be here after." It wasn't a hypothetical, it was a casual, matter-of-fact statement that our relationship was temporary, penciled in between brunch plans and group vacations. This wasn't an isolated incident. She had missed my graduation from my master's program for Adrienne's housewarming party. She skipped my brother's wedding because she was exhausted from a 3-day festival with the Squad. Even when my mom was in the hospital, Marissa couldn't visit because it conflicted with their weekly game night. Yet, she expected me to drop everything for her. A month prior, she called me at 2 a.m. to pick her up from a dive bar because Finn was too drunk to drive. When I arrived, she barely acknowledged me, too busy taking selfies before spending the ride home dissecting drama between Chloe and some random guy. I felt like an Uber driver. The worst part was how she discussed our relationship with them. I overheard her telling Tasha I was going through a jealous phase and needed to learn to share her time. I wasn't a jealous teenager. I was a partner who wanted to feel like a priority. Every time I tried to discuss balance and the need to nurture our relationship, she promised to do better, only to make plans that excluded me moments later. When I pointed out the pattern, she accused me of trying to isolate her from her friends. There was no winning. Sitting in a coffee shop, I finally admitted I was done. I couldn't keep coming in 6th place in my own relationship. I found a 1-bedroom apartment I could afford alone and drafted the lease application. My friends thought I should issue an ultimatum, but I was tired of begging someone to want to spend time with me. Was it too much to ask that my girlfriend actually wanted to be my girlfriend? I submitted the rental application and was approved within 48 hours, a sign I was on the right path. Over the next week, I quietly moved my things whenever Marissa was out with the Squad, which was conveniently often. By the time she noticed, 80% of my belongings were gone. She came home around midnight on Thursday, having been at a new rooftop bar with Finn. "Ethan? Ethan, what the hell is happening? Where's all your stuff?" Her voice pitched higher with each empty room she checked. I was in the bedroom, packing the last of my clothes. She stood in the doorway, her eyes scanning the missing items. "Are you moving out?" Her voice cracked. I handed her the letter I'd written, explaining that I needed to be with someone who would prioritize our relationship, that I couldn't keep feeling like an afterthought. She read it twice, her eyes widening in disbelief. "You're seriously leaving me because I have friends? Because I won't ditch the people who have been there for me for years." "It's not about you having friends," I said, sitting on the bed, suddenly exhausted. Then what is it about? She snapped, waving the letter. This reads like you want me to choose between you and everyone I care about. I want you to care about me too, I said quietly. I want to feel like I matter to you. She stared at me, baffled. Of course you matter. But I can't just abandon my friends every time you want attention. The twist in my chest was sharp and familiar. I asked you to spend one evening with me for our anniversary. What? And you told me your friends were more important than us. You're throwing away 2 years because you can't handle me having a social life, she cried, throwing her hands up. You knew who I was when we started dating. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and realized she genuinely didn't understand. In her mind, I was the problem. I thought I knew who you were, I said, standing and zipping my bag. I thought you were someone who wanted to build something with me. I do. But not if it means cutting off everyone else. I'm not asking you to cut them off. I'm asking you to make space for me too. But she was already shaking her head. We were going in circles. She saw me as controlling. I saw it as basic relationship maintenance. There was no middle ground. After 20 more minutes of circular arguments, I held up my hands. I'm done, Marissa. I'm done arguing about this. Done arguing? Or done with us? Both. The finality in my voice finally registered. Her posture changed. This wasn't just another fight. She followed me around the apartment, listing our shared memories, but even then, every other sentence was about her friends. Remember that concert where we ran into Chloe and Adrian? What about the time we cooked dinner for the whole squad? She couldn't even conceptualize experiences that were just about us. I told her I'd be back for the rest of my stuff over the weekend when she was at Tasha's pool party, because, of course, there was a pool party. I left my key on the counter and walked out. But leaving wasn't enough. On Saturday morning, my phone exploded. Marissa called nonstop, sending paragraph-long texts about how we needed to talk this through like adults. When I didn't respond, she enlisted the squad. Chloe texted that I was devastating Marissa and breaking up the family. Finn called me immature for ghosting. Adrian suggested a group meeting to discuss things. Even Tasha, whom I'd barely spoken to in 2 years, felt qualified to tell me I was making a mistake. The messages grew more aggressive. You're going to regret this, and Marissa deserves better. By Sunday, they were calling me emotionally abusive for abandoning her without warning, despite the letter. Then, on Monday night, I came home from work to find all 5 of them standing outside my new building. Marissa stood front and center, the squad arranged behind her like an intervention crew. We need to settle this right now, she announced, loud enough for neighbors to peer out their windows. You don't get to just disappear and ignore everyone. I told them there was nothing to settle. I'd made my decision. Finn stepped forward. Dude, you're being a selfish piece of... Do you know how much you're hurting her? How much you're hurting all of us? All of them? I asked what I'd done to people I barely knew. Apparently, by dating Marissa, I'd become part of their family system, and leaving was akin to abandoning them all. It was the most codependent thing I'd ever heard. Chloe was crying. Adrian tried to mediate. Tasha recorded everything on her phone. Marissa nodded along as if this were normal. I gave them 30 seconds to leave before I called building security. When they refused, I walked inside and did just that. Security escorted them away, but not before Marissa shouted, "This isn't over." That was 3 weeks ago. The calls and texts eventually stopped, though I still get the occasional message from a random number. I didn't regret leaving, but I was shocked by the insanity. What kind of adult brings their entire friend group to harass their ex? Life on my own was surprisingly good. My new apartment felt like a sanctuary. Work was rewarding, and I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the Marissa years. Turns out, when you're not spending every weekend as a designated driver for someone else's social circle, you have time for your own life. Meanwhile, the squad was imploding. My friend Jake worked with Adrian and provided updates. Adrian had gotten serious with his girlfriend, Emma, who found the group dynamic immature and encouraged him to set boundaries. He began skipping weekly hangouts and pulled back from the group chat, prioritizing his relationship. Marissa lost it when Adrian said he couldn't make their annual beach trip because he and Emma were visiting her parents. "You're becoming just like Ethan," was her reported response. "Because God forbid someone prioritize their partner." Then, Chloe got a promotion that required relocating to Portland. She tried to coordinate virtual hangouts, but Marissa was cold, commenting that real friends don't abandon the group for career opportunities. Chloe was hurt by this reaction to what should have been celebrated news. Tasha and Finn, who'd had an on-again, off-again thing for years, decided to date seriously. Marissa didn't handle it well, worried it would change the group dynamic. The irony was thick. When I felt deprioritized, I was controlling. Now that she was feeling deprioritized, it was a tragedy. Marissa started telling people that everyone was pulling an Ethan on her, as if wanting to grow up and build adult relationships was a betrayal epidemic I'd started. I was having actual fun. I went to a concert with old friends. No group coordination, no incessant Instagram photos, no early exits for someone's drama. It was revolutionary. I started seeing someone new. Sarah was refreshing. She had close friends but understood that relationships require one-on-one time. During our first dinner, she didn't check her phone once. It was so unusual it took me a moment to realize why the evening felt so effortless. Then, out of the blue, Marissa texted me. "Hey, I know things ended badly, but I've been doing a lot of thinking. Maybe we could grab coffee sometime? I feel like we both said things we didn't mean." I stared at my phone, stunned. After months of silence, this felt like a sucker punch. When I didn't respond, she sent another, "I know I made mistakes. I was young and didn't understand how to balance everything, but I've been learning and growing, and I think we could try again if you're open to it." Jake laughed when I showed him. He thought Marissa had heard I was doing well and seeing someone new, and was realizing that a devoted boyfriend wasn't so terrible after all. The timing as her friend group evolved and people pursued their own lives was telling. Where was this introspection when I was begging for 2 years? I didn't respond. I didn't know her a coffee date or a chance to explain. I had spent 2 years trying to get her to understand partnership, and she had consistently dismissed my needs. I wasn't interested in being her backup plan. The texts continued for another week. They weren't aggressive, just persistent, as if she were searching for the right words to unlock a response. "I finally understand what you meant about balance. I see it now. The group isn't the same anymore. I think I was using everyone to avoid dealing with real intimacy. I miss talking to you, not even about getting back together, just talking. That last one almost got me. We did have great conversations once. But I reminded myself that good conversation doesn't equal good partnership, and I stayed silent." The final encounter happened at a downtown Italian restaurant. Sarah and I were having dinner when I spotted Marissa, Finn, and Tasha at a corner table. Adrian and Chloe were absent. Adrian with his fiancée, Chloe in Portland. Marissa saw me before I could suggest leaving. Our eyes met, and I saw her debating whether to approach. Sarah noticed my tension. I explained briefly. To her credit, she was understanding. Marissa didn't cause a scene, just waved before having an animated discussion with her friends. As we were leaving, Marissa approached us near the exit. "Ethan. Hey, I don't want to interrupt, but could I talk to you for a minute?" Sarah squeezed my hand. "I'll wait by the car." Marissa looked tired, older. She spoke quickly as if rehearsed. "I know you haven't been responding and I understand why. I just wanted to say you were right about everything. The balance, the priorities, what a real relationship should look like. I see Adrian with Emma, how they support each other, and I realize I never did that with you." I told her I appreciated the apology, but it didn't change anything. "I know," she said. "I'm not asking for another chance. I just needed you to know that I understand now. And I'm sorry, genuinely sorry, for how I treated you and how I reacted when you left." It was the first unconditional apology she'd ever offered. She glanced at Sarah waiting in the car and smiled sadly. "She seems lovely. I hope she appreciates what she has." Then she turned and went back to her table. In the car, Sarah asked if I was okay. I realized I was truly okay. The final irony, the squad had dissolved. Adrian was building a life with Emma. Chloe was thriving in Portland. Tasha and Finn were dating but wanted space from the old group dynamic. Marissa was trying to plan events and send nostalgic messages, but you can't force people to stay in a dynamic they've outgrown. She was learning the lesson I had tried to teach her months ago. All relationships require mutual investment. When people can't be authentic or pursue their own growth, they leave. As for me, things with Sarah are progressing naturally. She's met my friends and it was effortless. We're planning a weekend trip, just the two of us. The fact that this feels normal and exciting, rather than selfish or threatening, tells me everything I need to know about healthy partnerships. I don't wish Marissa ill annoy. I hope she learns to build connections that don't require the sacrifice of other important relationships. But I'm grateful I had the courage to walk away. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is refuse to be treated as an option. This chapter is closed. It's time to focus on the new one.